Let's call the meeting to order. City Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Agency Director Mann.
Present.
Marcus.
Here.
Cilio.
Is here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The invocation today is going to be done by Pastor Reggie Williams from Lancaster Baptist Church.
Let us pray together. Father, we want to thank you, Lord, for this great nation, Lord, that you have given to us to be a part of. And, Lord, how we need your blessing upon this nation. Lord, we thank you for this, of course, our country. Thank you, Lord, for our countrymen. Lord, we think of our president and, Lord, those that are fighting for our freedom. Lord, we thank you for them, and we ask that your grace, Lord, would be upon them. And, Lord, we thank you for this great city. Thank you, Lord, for the leadership of it. And, Lord, I do pray tonight that you would just give great discernment, Lord, to those that are in leadership. I pray that as the affairs of this city do come forward, I pray that you would just allow these men and women, Lord, to exercise discernment. And, Lord, again, we thank you for salvation. Thank you, Lord, for Jesus Christ. And, Lord, we just ask that you would be honored in this meeting. We'll thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated.
Mr. Mann, you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do you want to announce the speaker?
We have a student speaker tonight, and it's Chloe Solis, who is 13 years of age and attends Armagosa School. Chloe, if you'll come on up, and you can use Mayor Paris's microphone.
Hello, my name is Chloe Solis, and today my subject is Red Skelton and the Pledge. During the early days of television, Red Skelton was one of America's favorite comedians, but he also had a serious side. Following is his rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance, as taught by a Mr. Loswell, his 7th grade teacher. I, me, an individual, a committee of one. Pledge, dedicate all my worldly goods without self-pity. Allegiance, all my love and devotion. To the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts, freedom is everybody's job. United. That means we have all come together. To the states, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And the government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not the leaders to the people. For which it stands, one nation meaning so blessed by God. With liberty, this means freedom. The right or power to live one's own life without fear, without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or quality of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means boys and girls, this as much as your country as it is mine. Mr. Skelton added these words. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to the country, and 2 words to the Pledge of Allegiance. under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said this was a prayer and that it should be eliminated from schools too? God bless America. Thank you.
Okay, we have a commendation for Steve Fredericks from the LA County Sheriff's Department, and I think somebody took that. I need to get it back. This is new. I have to find the commendation. Somebody took it. Well, Steve, we have a commendation for you someplace. Okay, we'll see.
Well, maybe I can get started while we're trying to find the important paperwork here. I worked with Steve back starting in about 1998 over here at Lancaster Station, and we were watch commanders together. I was on day shift, and he was on PM. And I'll tell you what, you didn't have to work around Steve for more than about 5 minutes to realize that he was a true leader. I mean, you immediately recognized all the true leadership characteristics. He was intelligent, he was knowledgeable, probably still is, although had a great deal of immediate influence with all the young deputies, and probably most importantly, he was tactically sound out in the field. The guys that worked for him, the deputies that worked for him, loved him and knew they could depend on him, because when it came to critical incidents or anything else important going on out there in the field, they knew they could depend on him to make the right call at the right time, every time. So, on behalf of everybody, all of us over there at Lancaster Station, Steve, I want to thank you for all you've done for the County of Los Angeles, the Sheriff's Department, and all of us here in the City of Lancaster, where you spent your final years and they were productive years. We all wish you a happy and blessed and long, well-deserved retirement. Thank you, sir.
I have a story to tell about Steve. Now, for those of you who don't golf, one of the things golfers should never do is hit the ball into the foursome that's ahead of you. You should just never do that. And one time I'm playing with the sheriff, his sheriff, and he not only hit it into us once, he hit it into us twice. And I think the sheriff probably had something to do with making your presentation disappear just to get even. Thanks, Steve. It's been a pleasure to know you, and I hope you stay involved in the city. You're really one of the true assets we have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. Get a picture. The sheriff gave it back. It even has your name on it, just in case anybody thinks he went and got a blank one. This is in recognition of exemplary service, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, December 1974 through June of 2009. You are old. Congratulations on your retirement. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll just do it that way.
This is my son, Mike. He's taking over for me here.
Do one more with him and his son, okay? Absolutely. This is the one they'll really hang up.
Thanks. Just real quick, I just want to say it's been a true blessing to have been able to serve this community for the last 12 years. You've got an outstanding sheriff's department. The men and women who are out there on the street working for you on your behalf are doing an outstanding job, and that's what makes us look good in the administration. And also, I can tell you, having worked several assignments during my past 34 years on the sheriff's department, I have never seen such a cooperative effort as I have with the city of Lancaster and its sheriff's department. This is truly an outstanding city to work for, and just in fact, you're going to probably see a budget presentation, I don't know tonight, but they put their money where their mouth is, and they're truly interested in keeping this a safe community, and I applaud them for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Patty, come on up. Mayor, tonight we're recognizing the accomplishments of the 2008-2009 Youth Commission. And as typical, they do a number of activities during the year, do some really wonderful things for the community. And so I've asked Patty Garibay, who's the supervisor of that program, to join us tonight. And what she can do is tell you a little bit about some of those accomplishments, and then we'll introduce the commissioners, and then finally they'll introduce the Teen Spotlight Award winners that they're recognizing. Go ahead, Patty.
Just wanted to say a few words. Obviously, it's been a great pleasure working with these very distinguished group of young people. It's reassuring to work with people who are so willing to give back to their community and who want to do so much and who are so ready to do so much for the world. But in terms of what they've done this year, the first thing that comes to mind with this Youth Commission in particular is just volunteer work. These students, even though they're quite busy, they're all very academically involved. They've done a tremendous amount of volunteer work. This year we actually had them do over 120 hours of volunteer work, which is a lot considering their heavy school schedules and other things that they have going on in their life. And actually this year they participated in city events, including our Martin Luther King Day of Service, our Looking Good Lancaster program. They were so impressed with their Martin Luther King Day of Service project, which was working at St. Vincent de Paul, that they actually decided to do a canned food drive, which helped out the center and helped out with their Easter baskets, which they gave out to needy families in the community. So that was one of their accomplishments. But like I said, these are very diverse students who do a lot and are very involved in their school activities and different things. And among this group, we actually have someone who received a Gates Millennial Scholar, which is a huge honor. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but not very many students get that award. And so we have one of those students here. We also have a future Trojan. We have a journalist in the making and several other things going on. So it was a very nice group to work with. I'm really proud of all of your accomplishments, and I wish you guys the best. With that, we'll call it.
Do you want to do this? You want to do it?
I can just call the names and then they'll...
And I'll give it to him. You want to do that? Okay.
All right. Alamat Adabiki. And Alamat is actually the student that received the Gates Millennial.
She gets it. Thank you very much.
Go ahead and call.
Natasha Castro.
Natasha Castro. Thank you. Okay.
Brent Chapman. Alexander Clark. Youth Commissioners has selected a Teen Spotlight recipient, and basically what that award is them recognizing someone from their local high school who has done a tremendous job either in their academics, who's done a lot of volunteer work, or who have done some kind of extraordinary feat. So, I will let the Youth Commissioners present them.
Oh, good idea.
Hello, my name is Alan Rad, and I used to attend Little Brother High School. And I chose to nominate Randolph Grossman Jr. for the Teen Spotlight Awards because Randolph has been one person that has challenged me in my academics, and he's shown me that volunteerism is truly the American way. He's volunteered at Grace Resources. He's volunteered at places such as the Campton Salvation Army, and he's even volunteered in Atlanta, Georgia. I expect great things from Randolph, so with great joy and honor, I present you with the Teen Spotlight Awards.
My name is Natasha Castro. I attend Quartz Hill High School. I nominated Jimmy Castro. Not only is he an excellent student, he's on the newspaper for Quartz Hill High School with me, and he's just an excellent, hardworking student. But not only is he great academically, he also is an active volunteer. He volunteers at Antelope Valley Hospital, among others. And therefore, I'm honored to present him the Teen Spotlight Award.
Hi, my name is Brent Chapman, and I used to attend Paraclete High School. I nominated Andy Abercrombie for the Teen Spotlight Award. Andy's been involved with community service at our school for the past 4 years. She's starred in multiple plays, and she has demonstrated an exemplary academic record. And for her academic record and her community service, she received a full-ride scholarship to Westminster University in Pennsylvania. And for that reason, I would like to present Andy with the Teen Spotlight Award from the City of Bend.
Hello, I'm Alex Clark. I'm from Allen Valley Christian School. I nominated Joshua Medellin because he has demonstrated excellent leadership both at school and at church, and because he has volunteered numerous hours and been selfless with his time, giving back to the community, church, and his school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Doffin. I'm from Lancaster Baptist School, and today I nominated Shira Stamps. When I think of Shira, one predominant word stands in my mind: giving. Shira gives of her time, her patience, her parents, and her house. Ever since I've known Shira, her mother has been a foster parent, and if my mother was a foster parent, I know that I would be mad, but she has never done that. She wants to be, because she's never done that. Shira has always embraced her brothers and sisters, and one day is training to be a social worker so she can help out more foster kids. So for that, I want to give Shira the Teen Spotlight Award.
My name is Freeman Lyon, and I went to Lancaster High School, and I nominated Ina Singh for the Teen Spotlight Award because she was involved in a film she made in her AP Environmental class that won the National Council for Science and the Environment contest. Plus, she's been in all kinds of clubs, and she's probably the hardest working student I've ever seen, so Ina.
Hi, I'm Samantha Whittington, and I went to Desert Christian High School.
I nominated Stephanie Redding because she's done so much volunteer work through the Cancer Society and Girl Scouts for so many years with me. We've also done volunteer work with our school, cleaning it up and everything. She's also led the mock trial team for several years. So, come on, Stephanie.
If the parents would like to come down to take pictures, they'll be up here for a moment, so feel free to come down.
Let's group them. Hold on. Let's get in a group so that they can get you all in, okay? Good. Okay. Great. Let me get in there. Okay. Good. Okay. All right, give me something to hold. Okay, you had your first perp walk. No. Thanks, guys. Okay, moving on. All speaker cards must be filled out and submitted prior to the agenda item being called. This same rule applies if you wish to speak on a non-agendized item at the end of the meeting. Following this process will allow us to conduct a timely and orderly meeting. Thank you. Are there any items from the agency consent calendar we want to pull?
I'll move that we adopt the agency consent calendar.
Second that. Let's vote. It's unanimous. Any items from the council consent calendar we need to pull?
Yeah, Mayor Paris, item CC 22.
Okay, we'll pull 22. There were some others, weren't there, Mr. Bozigian?
I think you wanted to highlight the foundation, Mr. Bloom.
Which number?
8.
Oh, yes. Let's pull item 8. Was that it?
I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar as currently comprised.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. Okay, is Duke Bloom here? Duke. I'm going to nominate Duke Bloom to the Lancaster Performing Arts Center Foundation Board of Directors. And,
I'll second that.
Okay. And did you have any comments?
No, thank you very much, Your Honor.
We're pleased to have you join that foundation, Duke.
Thank you.
Well, I'm assuming you get to join it. Let's vote. And it's unanimous. Don't let us down, Duke. And quit kissing my mother.
Mayor Paris, item 22. I want to recluse myself. My son is the president of Lancaster Old Town Site, so I'm going to step out of the room.
Okay. Is there a motion on Item 22.
Move that we adopt item number 22.
Second. Let's vote. And it's unanimous with Mr. Mann recusing himself. You can come back, Mr. Mann. Okay, I'll now open the joint public hearing. Mr. Bozigian will do the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Paris and City Council members. Before you today is the proposed fiscal year 2009-2010 City and Redevelopment Agency budget that is in line with council priorities. We're going to give a brief budget overview. The action you're asked today is to open a public hearing and then direct staff to schedule adoption for the 23rd of June. I'd like to give you the bottom line on the budget. And the bottom line on this budget is that we are proposing to maintain service levels. That means all parks will be open, pools will be open, and our events will go on. We will continue with public safety clearly as our #1 priority, which you will see in this presentation. We will invest significantly in downtown revitalization. We will work through the home foreclosure program and others to continue to improve property values in the community, and we will provide long-term financial stability with this budget. That means maintaining a 10% operating reserve and also, in these economic times, not dipping into the financial stability reserve, which, as you know, is the 25% of operating expenses. This was an effort, a collective effort of the entire staff, looking at ways to become more efficient and not affect the public service that we deliver. The first thing is that we've kept vacancies and we've reduced our workforce without layoffs. We thank the council for working with the staff to appropriately reduce the workforce through various means. We will have 39 less positions this year than are budgeted, and we will be delivering essentially the same amount of service by being smarter and prioritizing. We've deferred some capital replacement items. We will maintain events, all of our events. That includes Poppy Festival, Celebrate Downtown Lancaster, my favorite, Bark at the Park, but we will do it with slightly lower budgets and getting more sponsorships. We are going to reduce some of our street sweeping, insecticide spraying in the residential areas, and one of our proposals is to reduce the number of polling places for the 2010 election, not precincts, but polling places. We've also looked at special funds. We're able to shift some funds from economic development to things like film office and graffiti abatement. And there are some new funds, Measure R to be exact, which we're able to use to pay for pavement management programs and such, thereby freeing up general funds. A couple of numbers to go over. The budget shows a $7 million decrease in the operating budget. That's including an increase in public safety. That's an 8% decrease overall, 5% in the general fund reduction. As I mentioned, we do maintain the reserves. We do have 5 new staff positions, which will all be internal recruitments. They're in our growing sewer and utilities division. That will allow us to recruit internally, taking folks off of general fund and on to restricted funds. And then one of the things, I'd like to go to the public safety slide and spend a moment on public safety. In tough economic times, we have not backed down from public safety. In fact, we've tried to be as aggressive as we possibly can. In working with the Sheriff's Department and through other grant sources, we have the potential, and it's good potential, to get 7 additional deputies at no cost to the City of Lancaster for the next 3 years. That's through some federal stimulus money, which would pay for about 80 to 85%, and we are working on a grant to pay for the rest of them. So we're hopeful that that will come through. We've been the most aggressive city, we're told by the Sheriff's Department, of all the contract cities in going after this money through them. We also, when we convert growth deputies, we always convert them to a higher level, so that would be the equivalent of 2.4 additional deputies. We plan on expanding our business outreach. One of the things that our Public Safety Office has done with the Sheriff's Department is we are visiting the top 10 business locations for calls for service, and we're going to continue visiting them until they get sick of us and their calls for service go down or they make corrective action if necessary. 2 things that we are excited about, and I know the mayor is probably going to mention some, is first off our real-time crime analysis. We do have crime analysis and the real-time information. We're going to work to get that to all the field deputies. As the research and development station for the county, we're going to work to make that happen. Captain Anderson has implemented a zone policing strategy, and I'm going to let the mayor at the end of this talk a little bit about some of the video surveillance, since this was an idea of his that he is spearheading. I think, one of the things we're particularly proud of is that we're not retrenching in this economy. We're going forward. Some of the things, our economic stimulus package, I'm not going to go over all that. I think that's been well documented, but we're continuing to implement throughout the next fiscal year that package. One of the initiatives that I believe is going to be one of the stars of this budget is downtown revitalization. The private sector has stepped up in a big way with a lot of what you see downtown. It's time for us to continue to step up as well, too. So in this budget are proposals for significant streetscape improvements, relocation of the museum and art gallery, construction of American Heroes Park, which should be out to bid very shortly, a promenade construction, facade improvement program, and some traffic controls, including a roundabout. So, and we plan by this time next year to have the boulevard transformed, where it's going to look completely different than it looks right now, because we're going to fast track all of these projects to try to get them under construction before the end of this year or at the very beginning of next year. And that's going to be a daunting task. Some of the other key initiatives. We are going to continue with our proactive code enforcement, our neighborhood community building efforts, and some of our housing and foreclosure programs. Those are the essential work that happens in the neighborhoods day in and day out. And one thing that I'd like to point out is, while we have, maybe one department or two departments stand up to talk about these, what we're particularly proud of is this is truly a collaborative effort between the Sheriff's Department, the Fire Department, Public Safety Office, the Code Enforcement, Public Works, Parks. This is a combined effort of the city going out and providing services and helping to fix these neighborhoods. Another thing we're excited about is that we were able to, with the help of our federal representatives, secure a $7 million grant from the Army Corps of Engineers to expand our recycled water system. We will be able to get water to City Park and hopefully Wick Carter Park recycled water, which saves literally millions of gallons of water each year for us. The solar energy projects I'm not going to go over. I think they've also been well documented and discussed, eSolar and Daystar. But that's another example of being proactive and trying to prepare for the future. We know the future for this area is bright. We need to be prepared now. That's the same with an annexation proposal that will be before you next meeting to propose to LAFCO to annex some property so that we can continue with solar energy initiatives, recycled water initiatives, and other green initiatives. With that, I'm going to ask Barbara Boswell to go over a few financial highlights, and then we will be available for any questions you might have.
Before I get into the real exciting part of the budget, I just want to extend some thank yous. This budget truly reflects the work, a collaborative effort of all the departments and department heads working together. We would not have been able to bring forth such a quality document and a quality proposal without everyone working together and working really hard to meet the challenge of the economy. It's also amazing how quickly time passes. It feels like it was just yesterday that I was standing here going through the budget, and here we are again. And once again, we're under the threat of the state coming back and taking revenues. We've done our part. We've done the tough choices in reducing our expenditures to bring them in line with our revenues. The state has yet to do that. Despite the economy, as I mentioned, we have a budget that's proposed that's in balance and it's in line with our means. We're reaping the benefits of the Council's conservative fiscal practices and policies that have been long-standing. We're also reaping the benefit of our long-range financial planning. We knew the good times wouldn't last forever. We always took a long view in making additions to our budget and making sure that we didn't have a service level that we couldn't sustain over the ups and downs. I'll take just a minute to go through the financial numbers. The total budget is proposed at just over $220 million. That's 19% lower than the 08-09 budget. It reflects our lower level of anticipated revenues. There are two components to the budget. There's the City of Lancaster component and the Redevelopment Agency component. The city budget is proposed at $97 million, which is 15% lower than the 0809 budget, and the Redevelopment Agency at $123 million, or 21% lower. Mark did touch on our efficiencies and reductions, but I'll just briefly touch on those again. We've reduced operating expenses, including travel expenses, reducing some of the costs and special events, although those events will still go on. Elections expenses, tree trimming, street sweeping, and again, the approximately 39 positions that will remain vacant through the year. On the general fund side, the general fund is the revenue source that pays the sheriff's contract. It pays for park maintenance, recreation programs, all the things that touch on our residents' daily lives. The general fund budget is proposed at just over $50 million. That's within our revenue projection of $54 million, and we anticipate having $1 million to go into our reserves. So again, you can see that we're proposing a budget that is within our means. While we do have projected reserves, we don't know what the state's going to do, and we don't really know what the economy is going to do. So we want to kind of keep that in our back pocket for the uncertainty, the unknown. Included within the budget is the capital improvement program. This is where you find the funding for the construction projects that you can see throughout the city, including parks construction, streets, and water projects. A big portion of the $30 million capital improvement program is our downtown revitalization, $10.2 million, which will go into infrastructure projects, the relocation of the Lancaster Museum and Art Gallery, and construction of American Heroes Park. We also have $5.1 million proposed for water projects. Water is a critical resource here in Lancaster, and our budget reflects a priority placed on ensuring available water in the future. Included are water banking purchases, the recycled water distribution and conversion, a groundwater recharge pilot project, and then getting the water main extended to Carter Park. We also have streets and pavement management at $9.6 million. We have our 2009-10 pavement management program. You can see the benefits of that on Lancaster Boulevard, which was just repaved last week, I believe, and striping this week. The Avenue I and 14 freeway interchange will be complete, and Avenue M widening from 30th to 40th West are just a few projects. With that, I will turn it back to Mark to make some closing comments. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Barbara, and I'd be remiss at not pointing out the wonderful work of our finance department leading this up, but it really was a team effort. We're excited to present this budget to you. As you can tell, we're very excited for what the next year brings and some of the changes we hope to see, visible changes on Lancaster Boulevard and continuation of the progress on public safety. And with that, we do thank the council for continuing the conservative financial practices and managing the city in the right way that we would hope all local governments are managed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank staff for just a fantastic job again. I mean, here we have another budget where we're putting, increasing law enforcement and public safety. We're not laying anybody off. We're staying open 5 days a week. We're not dipping into the stability fund. We're not really cutting services, and we're moving forward. We're going to be opening up some restaurants. We're improving downtown. It's just amazing. So it's now hopefully if the state will stay out of our pocket, then we'll be able to continue. But that's just a great job for staff.
Perhaps we should consider succession. No.
That's the first time I've ever heard applause after a budget presentation. And I'm going to lay that at the feet of, it's a reduction of the combined budget, 19%, I think it was? Imagine if our state were to take these types of monetary policies and put them into effect, how we could turn around the whole state and not just the city.
I just want to say in a time when we're hearing a lot of doom and gloom that in the city of Lancaster that we're not. And thank you, Barbara Boswell and Mr. Bozigan, and all staff, like you said, all the departments had a part in it of really looking at what could be cut. And you guys have done an outstanding job and appreciate all your work.
I think it was a year ago that we were sitting here, and again, my comments, I have to chime in with my fellow council members, and specifically what Ron said. I'm quite impressed when we can continue the thunder on keeping the heat on with the Sheriff's Department. It's impressive when you look at this budget. And when I was just sitting here listening to it being presented both on Mark's part and Barbara's, it was positive. And it's a breath of fresh air to sit here, be a part of the team that sits on this council, and know that we're making the right choices. And again, just like Vice Mayor said, hopefully we can keep the state out of our back pocket and we don't have any hiccups this next year. Thank you so much, and thank all the employees of the City of Lancaster.
Yes, thank all of the employees. That's truly a remarkable job. The thing I find really fascinating about how well you're doing is most organizations, when they start cutting, their focus is on the negative and on the cutting, and you never see any growth. And this is really the first time I've had an experience where people are cutting budgets, but at the same time managing to grow at a really remarkable level. And I don't know how you guys pull it off, but I'm just astonished that you do, and proud to be the mayor of the city that is able to accomplish that. We are one of the few cities in the state who have not reduced services, even though we've reduced the budget beyond anything, beyond an amount any of us thought we were capable of doing without reducing services. So you're doing a phenomenal job. Some of the things that we're bringing forward is this year within this budget, we are looking at it's essentially an eye in the sky that was going to be one of the most, we will be the most revolutionary city in the country that has this, where the Sheriff's Department from the department will be able to just touch a screen, and within seconds we will have eyes on that location. We will be able to look back in time. We can put into the computer the intersection, the date, the time, and we'll actually be able to see what the cars were doing in that intersection at that particular time. It's right out of, what is it, 24 Hours, or who's the star of 20?
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, but who's the character? Yeah, it's Jack Bauer science fiction that's coming to reality in Lancaster. And that'll be a 24-hour surveillance that we have that no other city will have. And we expect that the crime rate is going to drop dramatically, simply because you'd have to be stupid to commit a crime in Lancaster once we put that up. Well, I guess they are stupid, aren't they? Anyway, there'll be a lot softer targets than the city of Lancaster. We're also meeting with Antelope Valley College to hopefully get it so that the college will contract with the Sheriff's Department to take care of their law enforcement needs, which will expand, and the symbiosis of that is going to be extremely beneficial for both the college and the city. The downtown revitalization, Vice Mayor Smith, this has been a project of his for a number of years now, is going to be truly remarkable. And what we're hoping for, and what we think is going to occur, is that it will be the arts center for the Antelope Valley. And keep in mind, it's not the Antelope Valley today, it's the Antelope Valley of tomorrow, where there's millions of people who live here. And that's what we're recognizing is going to happen, and planning it in an intelligent, livable way. In spite of cutting the budget, you still did the economic stimulus plan, which the merchants and the businesses in this city, I can't go anywhere without somebody grabbing me and thanking me for what you guys did on that. That was truly a innovative creation of the city of Lancaster that was executed without flaws. I mean, you have to use the card in Lancaster. And this month we kick off the Leadership Academy. For anybody who wants to get in that hasn't applied, they should do so, because that is where the leaders of the Antelope Valley are going to come out of. I have no doubt about that. And that is that is going to be a model project for the entire nation that Harvard is putting together. So a lot of things are happening when nothing should be happening, and I'm at a loss to explain how you do it. Just keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf
You've
of
made
staff.
me proud to be the mayor of this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And if the public would like, the budget will be available online to look at and at the city clerk's office. At the city clerk's office as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any communications?
No, sir.
Any speaker cards?
Not for PH1, or for the budget, not for the budget.
Okay. So do we have to move to adopt it? Is that any further discussion?
Yeah, just close the public hearing.
Oh, we close the public hearing? Okay, public hearing's closed. The adoption's later? Okay. Okay, we'll now open the public hearing on public hearing item number 1, and we'll hear from Sylvia Donovan from the Planning Department.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor Paris and council members. The municipal code establishes time limits for the initial approval of conditional use permits and site plan reviews and the number and length of those approvals. Under the current municipal code, site plan reviews typically are approved for 2 years with the ability to request a 1-year extension. Conditional use permits expire within the time specified by the permit, or if no time is specified, within 1 year of granting the permit, with the ability for the applicant to request a 1-year extension. The current economic situation has created financial hardship, and a significant number of site plan reviews and conditional use permits, approximately 51, may expire during the 2009 calendar year. Modification of the code would allow the legal mechanism to grant additional time extensions. Staff is recommending that the council introduce Ordinance 924, amending Title 17, to establish a 2-year approval for conditional use permits and to provide 3 1-year extensions for both conditional use permits and site plan review. That would allow a 5-year total approval, which is approximately the same time that is allowed for tentative track maps in the city. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I want to be clear on this. If we have the Architectural and Design Commission that you're working on, that's coming forward with a lot of changes into how we're going to allow building to occur. How does that interplay with these projects that we give continuances to?
I don't believe they would affect the projects that are in place right now. The Architectural Design Review Committee would probably put in place anything that's ongoing, effective today and in the future, but not previous. I guess we could be directed to review each architectural review and at the 1-year extension time, since that's a new ordinance.
Should that be in this?
Mr. Mayor, if they come in for an extension and there have been significant changes in the statutes that apply or the regulations that apply, we could, as a condition to granting the extension, impose those additional requirements.
So how do we make certain that occurs? What I don't want to do is see housing projects going up without the changes. I mean, we're doing, at least I hope, you're doing substantial changes to the way these housing tracts are going to be designed and built. Is that correct?
That's part of the Architectural Design Committee purview, yes.
I mean, that should be forthcoming in the next couple months, shouldn't it?
I would suspect that we would have a draft sometime September, October, and that it would be in front of you in December.
Okay. So how do we ensure that it applies to everything that's not built as of today or as of November?
Well, we could write it into the statute, and I'm hesitant to do that because of the lack of flexibility in applying the conditions. The other one, it would be a policy direction to ensure that any conditions on approved tracts incorporate the requirement that upon an extension they may be required to comply with the new conditions adopted by the Architectural Review Commission.
Okay, well, what I'm asking you, should that be part of this ordinance, or would that be?
No, what I'm saying is I think not. I think we can do that as a policy matter.
As
Yeah, I mean, you could add direction to staff to start that process and to apply that from a policy from this point forward.
From the council.
Yeah, from the council. Direction from the council to staff to apply that as a policy.
Part of this action.
Right. Add that to your approval.
Okay, you guys are confusing me. I know it's easy to do, but help me out here. I'm uncomfortable with a policy. I mean, it doesn't have the effect of an ordinance, right?
It does not. No, absolutely not.
So how do I ensure that all of the work that these people have been doing is going to be effectuated without any question? Meaning, I don't want it in somebody's discretion to say that they build to the current standards as opposed to the standards that were in effect when the CUP was granted.
I think the only way to guarantee it is to line it or to interlineate it into the ordinance right now. Now, we can either, one, do that tonight or bring this ordinance back at the next meeting with that language in it.
I would prefer we bring it back with that language in it, if that's okay with everyone else.
Well, it's not only just the architectural design stuff that hasn't come up. How does that affect the water conservation stuff that we've already done? You know, where they have to comply with all of the xeriscaping and the other things that we've done.
we already put conditions in place every time that we go through Planning Commission, that they have to meet the ordinance 907.
Okay. We want you to give the automatic extensions.
Right.
Right, so we could do the same thing with this ordinance then, too. Okay.
We'll work it out and bring it back to the next meeting.
We will bring it back at the meeting of the 23rd.
Okay, I'd also like at the next meeting a status and update as to just what the Architectural Design Commission has accomplished to date, and when we can expect to see some substantial changes in the way we build. Can you do that?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do it all at one shot then. Okay. Thank you. So we can just move on? Good. Thank you. New business item 1, Randy Williams. What?
If you want, if there are any people here to talk on this item, you might want to take their...
There's not.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'm going to recuse myself on this. I think it's within the distance of my office that needs to kick me out of here.
Okay. Okay, let the record reflect that the mayor has left the room and given the chair over to myself. So, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and council members. Before I start with the staff report, let me first direct your attention to 2 corrections that need to be made to the staff report. The first is on page 1, the second line from the bottom. It begins Avenue L8. It should read Avenue K8. If you would reflect that change, please. And on the second page, the 4th line down, it reads presently alteration permits set forth migration. Migration should be mitigation. So I apologize for needing to make those 2 corrections, but for clarity's sake, I felt it was appropriate to point that out to you. Let me first describe to you a little bit about the project itself. I won't spend a lot of time, but normally we would bring to the council on the consent calendar an item for award of a public works construction project. But this one is unique in many ways, and not just from the design aspect, but also from the opportunities that it provides to the city. To begin with, this project will allow the development of 156 acres, more or less, for either commercial or hospital facilities to be constructed in that area. It will provide an underground stormwater conveyance system capable of handling the 100-year flood, so it will definitely protect that area and also the rest of the area along 10th Street West. It consists of a concrete arch and a steel arch, depending upon which part of the project you're located in, to provide the load carrying capacity above ground for anything, whether it's parking lots or, for that matter, it's buildings that may be placed on top of this conveyance system. There will be, of course, an easement across the property for the conveyance as well as for the maintenance of that conveyance system. What I think is really an important feature, and one of the primary reasons I wanted to bring it to your attention in the form of new business this evening, was what we have decided to do with the floor to this underground conveyance. We have designed, and there will be constructed, an interlaced or interwoven steel cable and concrete block mat system that allows the continuation of the normal or the natural infiltration and percolation of stormwater into the ground and hence into the aquifer. So it's something we wanted to make sure we did not lose, and that was the ability to recharge the aquifer through that presently natural facility. One of the things that has occurred along the way is the requirement for a stream bed alteration agreement. This is a standard, but it's something that has taken us quite some time, but we have managed to reach agreements with the Department of Fish and Game for the state, and they have identified a considerable amount of mitigation effort that we must undertake in order to make up for the fact that there are some occasionally wet pools in that reach between Avenue L and 10th Street West as you travel north of the Amargosa Creek. And they have decided that what we need to do is to restore the Amargosa Creek bed north of Avenue J all the way to Avenue H. We have estimated, but previously not budgeted, for that mitigation effort, but we've estimated it to be at about $1,850,000. We're fortunate in this particular contract, another reason for celebration and bringing it to your specific attention this evening, and the fact that the bids, there were 20 bids, by the way, and this is unheard of in Lancaster, but nevertheless we had 20 very good bids. I think only one of those bids was above the engineer's estimate. The rest of them were all below, and the low bid was, first of all, the government, the estimate for the engineering work was about $10.5 million. The low bid was just slightly under $7 million. That's a 34% savings over what we had budgeted for the construction of this project. That means that we will be able, and one of the recommendations, or part of the recommendation this evening is that we redirect money previously appropriated for this project to the new project that will provide the mitigation effort for the environmental restoration along the Amargosa Creek. I wanted to mention to the council that bids were open on April 29th, and we have taken this long to bring it to you because of the considerable attention being given to each of the individual bids. There were 2 different protests that were filed. Each were reviewed, considered by the city attorney's office, and ultimately it was decided that the low bidder was responsible and responsive, and we therefore should award to that low bidder. If there are any speakers cards, I do not know if there are, but if there are, you may want to have the city attorney address it from the legal perspective on the award. Nevertheless, based upon what we have evaluated and on the city attorney's recommendation, the staff recommends that the council award Public Works Construction Project 08-044. And together with that award, continue to provide the additional 10% contingency that we generally face for the inspection service, administrative services, and anything that may come up in way of an unexpected change to the project. The other action that we are asking as part of this recommendation is that new project 13EV001, and that's an environmental project, in the amount of $1,856,000 be approved so that we can immediately get underway with the design and eventually the construction of the habitat restoration in the creek bed. Before we get underway with the construction, it will be brought back to the council at that time. So this will allow us to start the design effort only. We have recommended that you redirect of the monies that were appropriated for this project, a little more than $1.5 million of general fund money and about $350,000 of the biological impact fund. That would allow us to go forward with both the design and eventually, we think, the construction of the habitat restoration. If you have any questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them for you at this time. We're very excited about this project.
Yeah, Mr. Williams, where, I'm trying to think through there and stuff, where exactly does the creek bed restoration
The stream bed restoration.
Where it crosses Avenue I? I mean, where is that? Is that?
It actually begins at Avenue J, and everything north of Avenue J, that is Amargosa Creek, it's all open. And
where's the cross section at 30th? Like at I? Where's the cross section at I? As you're going
Avenue
down I?
Okay, it's a shallow.
Because I see that we have that little creek area at 30th and I. Is that going to be part of the area?
Well, what we're going to do is the stream bed banks, basically.
Right.
And we will be going in, planting native plants, and establishing it with temporary irrigation systems. We are anticipating that we'll be able to use recycled water as a result of the Corps of Engineers' contribution to our recycled water extension program. But there will primarily be plantings that'll be undertaken in this process.
I was just trying to see if that, we have that standing water all the time that comes out of the Melrose project on just above J, and as it crosses I, it comes under the two culverts that go over onto that property. Is that part of the stream bed also?
Yes.
Then it goes up through the...
Yes, it is.
Because
that is nuisance water. In fact, it comes out every place we have an inlet to the Amargosa.
Right. If I could, before Council, unless you have any other questions, I wanted Mr. Williams to go over something, and then also Mr. McEwen to make a few statements, and I think the city attorney wanted to add an additional thing to the staff's recommendation. But just so that maybe the audience and the people watching, and just for the record, that this particular project tonight, we're not voting on to do it or not, but actually this project was voted on back in January of 2005 with the Drainage Master Plan, and we've had numerous votes along the way, and this is just actually the award of the contract. Maybe you could explain a little bit of that.
That's correct, sir.
Well, that's a great explanation. That's the shortest one.
You gave
You must be getting ready to retire, Randy.
Yes, sir. I'm not counting, but it's coming.
Could you mark that down that is a new world record for an answer from Mr. Williams? That's great.
You did a fine explanation.
That's it. That's correct. Okay.
We, as the mayor pointed out, we do have a master plan of drainage, and the Amargosa Creek is clearly part of that master plan of drainage. It is the primary conduit for stormwater through the central part of the city of Lancaster. It actually receives water also from the west, because everything kind of flows from the west to the east, gets into the Amargosa, and to some degree, but not quite to the same degree, everything on the far eastern side of Lancaster. The Amargosa Creek, though, therefore, is critical for those purposes. Over the years, there have been a number of improvements that have been made that have allowed the amount of flow through that to be better regulated. Most of that has come about because of upstream detention basins that have been constructed for that purpose. We built similar basins in Lancaster as well, and that has also helped that process. In 2004, there was, in fact, a proposal brought before us for the consideration of a project ultimately to be called the Amargosa Promenade. And that would be a major shopping facility, a mixed-use shopping facility on much of that property, at least on the northern portion of the northeast corner of 10th Street West and Avenue L. There's about 40 acres of the total 156 acres that will be, at some date in the future, placed under construction for a new hospital. And the city has a development agreement with both the future hospital operators, owners, as well as for the commercial property that would be developed. We believed at the time that we could improve upon the value of that property to the city by placing this conveyance underground and thereby increase the capacity for above surface uses of that property. This was our proposal to minimize the amount of land area that would be necessary, and at the same time continue to provide the same benefit to the Amargosa as we have always had, that being the infiltration of stormwater to the aquifer. So we're excited about this project. We think it's timely. It's being funded through the drainage impact fees collected from developers. There will also be drainage impact fees collected from both the commercial developer in the future of the site as well as the hospital developer in the future. And I think ultimately the city is going to see that this drainage conveyance system through at least the northern portion of that site is paid for completely by the developer. So we think this is a very good deal for Lancaster all the way across the board.
Thank you. Mr. McEwen, did you have something about the, you wanted to add some language to the...
I did. In addition to the recommendation, in fact, as part of the beginning of the recommendation, I would ask that you include a waiver of any bidding irregularities that may have occurred. And if there are any comments that need to be responded to later, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from staff? I have about 5 speakers cards. Okay, we'll take the speakers cards. If I could, I know that JBH is here, and that was one of the bidders. Do we have more than one speaker from JBH? I have a Noel Lance. Is that from JBH? And then Jeff Hale. Okay, how about Jim Barletta? Okay, no, I'm not calling you right now. I'm just getting the... You had your card. I just wanted to make sure that the people from JBH had their names together. So I'm just taking the cards in the order that they were given to us. Mr. David Paul. You're going to pass. Thank you. Mr. Jeff Hale. And just to remind everybody that you have 3 minutes, and the light will go on when you have about 30 seconds. The yellow one and the red one will go on about 10 seconds before the trap door goes in.
Vice Mayor, council members, city staff, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. My name is Jeff Hale. I am one of the owners of JBH Structural Concrete, and we were the second place bidder on the Amargosa project. And I will let my legal counsel go into the details, but I just wanted to say a few things to you. We're not strangers here to the Valley. We've done modernization work on a couple of your local high schools, Quartz Hill and Palmdale High School, which, by the way, we employed, most of our employees were residents of the area. But one of the themes that I'm hearing tonight is I hear a lot about leadership, and I was looking at your screen when I walked in this evening and looking at the young people that were here tonight and the awards that were given. And with leadership, obviously, comes integrity. And I see that there is no lack of integrity in this community by looking at the website that you folks have and your bios. It's a very fine city. You should be very proud of it. But with that said, I look at the bid documents that your city staff put out, very detailed, and they ask very pertinent questions. And unfortunately, the low bidder chose not to disclose some what we consider very serious information. Blatantly, we were looking at it as they essentially lied on their bid documents. So we look at that and say, is that really somebody that the city wants working on their projects? Mr. Mann, I heard you make a comment about the city making the right choices. And so, I kind of fall back onto the integrity. Many corporations, companies, municipalities, entities that hold to their mantra, to their mission statements, they flourish because they stick with what they believe in. And so I'm asking that you guys reconsider your decision and that you look at the facts and the way that these documents were filled out, and I think you would agree with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jeff Hale. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Noel Lance.
Good evening, council members. My name is Noel Lance. I'm from the law firm of Mark Scalia and Finch. I'm here on behalf of JBH Structural Concrete. As Mr. Hale just informed the council, JBH was the second low bidder on the Amargosa project. My goal here tonight is to provide the council with information that was omitted from the staff report and to seek answers to questions that were raised but not answered by the staff report as well. it appears that the staff report is, at best, based on confusion surrounding the bid results and requirements, and at worst may evidence questionable backroom decision-making. Bids were submitted. The bid requirements were very clear. Bidders were asked to disclose information surrounding past litigation on projects in which they worked, litigation with owners, litigation with subcontractors, very clear yes or no questions. Without going into too much detail, the apparent low bidder, Cast Construction, to which the staff has recommended award, failed to properly address these questions, omitted very serious information that was recent, as recent as 2008. In response, JBH submitted a bid protest raising these omissions and contacted the purchasing agent for the project. 3 separate times, JBH was informed that the purchasing agent had discussed the matter with the city attorney and that they had rendered a decision that Cast Construction's bid was not responsive to the bid requirements and that therefore would be recommended to be denied. As recently as earlier this month, that information was provided to our office. Inexplicably, a few days ago, staff recommendation came out to award to Cast Construction and declaring that their bid was responsive. No explanation as to why the change in policy or decision. Responsiveness is a black and white issue. It's not something that can be changed without some sort of explanation. What that leads JBH to believe is that the staff, and by extension the city, is seeking to, in effect, swap fair bidding practices to save money on this project, something that's both improper and, as Mr. Hale mentioned, against the city's very practices. JBH seeks an explanation for this change and requests the City Council review the staff report and staff decision-making and seek information as to how this change came about, as no explanation has been provided to our office or to JBH. The failure to properly address these questions is undisputed. It's been admitted by Cast Construction. However, the staff report appears to ignore that very admission. That leaves the city with a recommendation to award this project to a dishonest contractor that's already omitted critical information to the city and raises a slippery slope that may lead to liability in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Lance.
Thank you.
Before I take the other speaker's card, let me let Mr. McEwen maybe fill us in on staff telling JBH that you personally said that they should be denied because there's irregularities.
He's correct. The initial determination was that they were not a responsive bidder. I continued the review of that and concluded that you really can't make that determination based on the face of the bid documents, and that's how you have to make a determination of whether you have a responsive bid or not. It's on the face of it. You don't dwell into the background of the answers. You don't do another investigation of the answers. You take the answers at face value for the purpose of determining whether it's a responsive bid or not. In this instance, all of the responses were given, so they are a responsive bidder. If you want to go into an investigation of the answers based on the information provided by JBH, then we would have to go a different route, and that's to determine that Cast Construction is a non-responsible bidder. And to do that, it requires a lot of due process, and it requires evidence to show that, in fact, they are not a responsible bidder. We did pass on the protest to Cast and ask for an explanation of the various lawsuits that were listed in the JBH protest. And in just about every instance, the explanations coming back were that these involved areas that were outside of the scope of our question and were not, therefore, material to the award of the contract. The only one that involved a breach, I think, was the TNT, but that involved non-payment of a subcontractor who, in fact, and Cass, in fact, had not been paid by the entity contracting with them, so that was the reason why they had not paid. The rest of the information provided was so incomplete that it was not possible to use most of it. So lacking any kind of evidence that would demonstrate that, in fact, they were a non-responsible bidder, we felt that awarding the contract on that basis and waiving any of the irregularities did not impact the fairness of the bid process. So that's why there was a change of recommendations during the process. It took us some time to get to the bottom of the various issues, and I feel comfortable that we have arrived at the correct response to that. And by the way, they have been provided with an explanation of why we were determining that those various protests were not valid.
Would any of
provided that in a letter on June 3rd.
Right. Would any of their information that they gave us afterwards and the explanation and stuff, if they would have provided that at the beginning where JBH is actually saying the irregularities occur, would that have knocked them out of the bidding process?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. McEwen from council? I have another speaker. Go ahead.
Well, my only concern is those are very serious charges that you've brought forth. But at the same time, I rely on staff, and what Mr. McEwen has just said is that you've been provided with an explanation. You may not like the explanation. Is that where the contention is? It makes me very uncomfortable because you've held up the integrity factor here. And we feel very strongly about that. But like I said, at the same time, Mr. McEwen, we're relying on you very heavily in this area.
I understand that. One of the things that we did do is contact Cass Construction and their lawyers, and the answers that they provided with respect to the various lawsuits were satisfactory. And in most instances, they were relying on advice of counsel when they responded in the way they did on the bid thing, that the lawsuits were outside the scope of the question that we were asking.
So you're very comfortable with this?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
Any other questions from council for Mr. McEwen?
I may have some comments after the other speakers, but nothing at this moment.
Jim Barletta.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of the council, staff, city manager. I would like to first of all thank everybody involved in designing this project, and I guess that would go to Mr. Williams and his staff. I think this is great for any water purveyor in the valley, and it's going to ensure that we'll have the maximum amount of runoff recaptured as possible. They could have taken something that would have been a lot less expensive. They could have said, well, let's just fill it in and let's put a couple of pieces of pipe in the ground, like a culvert, and just channel it right through here and not worry about it. Probably pay a lot less money. But they're planning ahead, and this is what's really good. Because I remember, if you're going to rely on, say, the water that you would buy to inject in the ground for water banking, go back to 1991, if a lot of you folks remember the drought we had in 1991 when AVEC was cut down to 10% of what they wanted. I mean, water was tight. If this had been a case where they hadn't have done what they've done with this project here now and developed in such a way where it wouldn't recharge, where would you get the water to bank? Wouldn't be there. So once again, I've got to say thank you. I think it's a great design. I haven't seen the design, but I'm told that it's going to be porous and it will percolate, and that is the bottom line. We've got to capture that water, and of course with the Armagosa running right through the city, what a better place to protect it. And I certainly hope that when they develop the other projects adjoining it, which I'm sure they will now, they'll use the same design or something similar so that it'll ensure it's good quality water. And I just want to thank everybody involved and continue the progress. Doing a great job. Any questions?
Nope.
No?
Thank you. Okay, it's not a public hearing, so we just had speaker's cards. So, Mr. Cilio.
Mr. McEwen, thank you for the explanation between non-responsive and non-responsible. I think that clarifies a lot. And also to double up on what Councilman Marcus said, I want to ask specifically Mr. McEwen, Mr. Bozigi, and Mr. Williams, have you heard anything tonight that is substantially different or would change the opinions that you've offered so far that Cass Construction is the one we should go with and that we should award the bid to them?
I have not.
Nor have I, sir.
No, sir. Thank you.
I've got one question, and obviously this is due to the experience. Historically, when we've had bidding, I know we're adding some wording to the recommendation with the additional waiver of irregularities. I believe I got that right, or maybe not quite the pronunciation. But again, to reiterate what Councilman Cilio says, or asked the question, having somebody come before the council and question the bid process, clearly that raises concerns for me as well as I think the fellow council members that are sitting here tonight. And it's disappointing that they did not get awarded the bid. Maybe there's some frustration, and with that said, I feel comfortable enough to support the direction that staff has concurred what we just heard. So, thank you.
Yeah, I just one comment on what JVH had to say, and then have some positive things to actually say about this. But first, I think JVH has every right for a remedy of something that they feel they've been unjustly, faulted, and that's based on fact. I mean, that's a thing of, deciding the facts. And there's a particular, as Mr. McEwen said, there's a particular venue for that and a particular process that goes through. And yes, the council is relying on our council's judgment, and those are things that are not necessarily a trier of fact, but a trier of evidence of balancing of whether or not something meets to what you're saying. But what you're saying bothers me a lot. I can see you calling a competitor a liar, because that's what you said tonight, but then to accuse this council and this city of usurping the fair practices of contractual law in the state of California for the purposes of only receiving a lower bid. Well, I could tell you that upsets me greatly, okay? Because nobody up here, first you come out here and you bait us with the thing that, well, you have integrity, and then you tell us that we're just basically breaking the law. Now, if it's a matter of fact, that's one thing. It's a matter of interpretation. But to say that we are doing it on purpose and the reasoning why, unless you can read my mind, and I haven't found one person out there yet that can read my mind, I don't think you can state that publicly. So there is a process for that, and I'm sure if you want to continue and seek remedy, then that's what you'll do. But I'd like to end this on a positive note, in that in this economic downturn, we're actually getting something that originally, I think in 2005, was estimated at $12.5 million. I said 12,000, I meant 12.5 million. Then the next engineering estimate came out to about 10.6, and we're still coming in at about 6.9 without the 10% contingency. So, this is just a great time. And as the water purveyors have said, this is a great opportunity. I think we're trying to stay ahead of the game and be prepared for when something happens. We're not only talking about a hospital, we're talking about a shopping center, we're talking about the auto mall, and we're also being able to take some of that money and divert it into actual ecological habitat and improve the quality of life for our city. So I think it's good all the way around, And I'm sorry if JPH didn't feel that it was fair, that we were being, well, I already went through that one. So, if there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move that we adopt staff recommendations with the addition of the waiver language that Mr. McEwen suggested.
Which would be waiver of any bidding irregularities, I believe I wrote it down as.
I second that.
Call for a vote. Thank you. And if somebody could get Mayor Paris.
They put you in a little closet back there, and I escaped, so that's what happened.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Mayor Paris has now re-entered the room, and I'm giving the chair back to him.
Thank you. Council agenda, is that where we're at?
Yes.
There's no council agenda? City manager, any announcements?
Two, sir. One, in my budget presentation, I was remiss in not pointing out that our deputy city manager, Jason Cottle, has done an excellent job of helping to push the downtown revitalization along. So I want to acknowledge that effort. And I had the opportunity this morning to visit Fire Station 129, and I was amazed at the work that the firemen did in terms of the Muscular Dystrophy Association, Fill the Boot, and I wanted to give Mike Metro the opportunity to take a minute to explain that.
The MDA is a very valuable charity, for it combats muscular dystrophy and all the associated neuromuscular diseases. Many of our friends, some of my friends, have died from this horrible disease. And I'm proud to say that this year, within the city of Lancaster, with the help of the city of Lancaster and the firefighters, we increased the donations within the city by 348%. And this is a great thing. Great things are accomplished by great people willing to give. Our firefighters are out there tirelessly working for 3 days collecting donations. And when I asked the city of Lancaster for help, they were there and gave us everything we needed. And so this was a collective success on both the part of the city of Lancaster and the Los Angeles County Fire Department combating a horrible disease. So I'd like to thank the council, the mayor, and Mark and the staff for helping us do such a great, great accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
City Clerk, any announcements?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for anyone who would like to address the City Council on items that are not on the agenda to fill out a speaker card. You'll find the speaker cards at the back of the council chambers. We ask that you fill the cards out completely and as clear as possible so that if the council or the staff needs to get a hold of you, they will be able to read your card. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. When you approach the podium, you'll see 3 lights. The green light comes on when your time begins, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red light comes on when your time is up. We do ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process for the City Council meeting. Our microphones are very sensitive and able to pick up your voices, therefore we respectfully request that you do not try to adjust them. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Biak.
After attending this meeting, I just say, listen to the council, been involved in the city since 1955, not the city, but Lancaster. And I said, wow, what a job you guys have done.
Thanks, Gerald. Thank you.
My hat's off to you. I'm here for my favorite subject, Verizon. Would you believe? I have friends that call information. I've lived at the new address a year and a half. They give out my own number. They send the bill to my new address. My name was spelled correctly. Supposedly when they listed the phone book, spelled incorrectly. I can't even find where it's spelled incorrectly in the phone book. And the only place that's worse than Verizon, or better than Verizon, is the morgue. You can call the morgue and get a hold of somebody. I put on 40 minutes. Waiting for Verizon, I hung up. Couldn't wait any longer. I've told you about my voicemail situation, and I tried to get Time Warner phone to change the Time Warner. I can't do it because they can't get a hold of my present phone number. That Time Warner, that price, you can transfer your phone number. I can't do it because I'm locked out. So, you people represent the city of Lancaster. I can go up to PUC and protest. I'm just one fly in the wall. You people, the city goes as the communications goes. If you have good communication in the city, you have good city. Good people want to come here. If you have poor, why bother? No. So, if you have any questions, I answer.
I think what I would like to do is maybe do a solution. I'd like to have somebody draft a letter for me to sign. Let's take a clip of this, send it with the letter, and let's see if we can get Verizon to get off their rear ends and do something. Okay? But they're probably going to ignore me just like they ignore anybody else. I mean, but let's give it a try, okay?
I'll go for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Is it Alarcon, Mrs. Alarcon?
Good evening, Mayor Paris and council members. My name is Pasita Alarcon, and I represent the Seniors Diversity Committee of the Antelope Valley. The Seniors Diversity Committee of the Antelope Valley was formed on March 12, 2009 by seniors who are retirees from their respective employment, retired but not tired, and we can call collectively our group as the Seniors in Action. With the creditable recommendation of the director of the Antelope Valley Senior Center, Ms. Sandy Hamilton, the committee arrived at a consensus to launch a program of visibility on Saturday, July 11, 2009, from noon to 5 p.m. at the Senior Center. The event consists of food sampling in the multipurpose room where guests can taste the cuisines of different countries, barbecue of hot links and hot dogs with soda drinks outside the building. A donation of $7 will cover both the food sampling and the barbecue. Entertainment numbers and arts and crafts are the focal features of the multi-purpose room throughout the afternoon. Members will also wear their ethnic costumes. Please join us in this celebration. We all look forward to your presence. But I would like to say something. Please don't have anything heavy before lunch. I want you to enjoy our food. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Orlando Ferrato?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
The reason why I'm here is ask a question about the Carter's Park over here. Me and my son, we live here and his wife right behind the park. And we were wondering see if they're going to put any fence back there. And because we feel insecure. And you know what kind of people hangs around in parks, you know. And then the other night, my son saw somebody smoking. They say for sure they were smoking pot back there, sitting on the benches. And And we start worry about it. My son worry about so much because we haven't seen a fence so far. And then they also have a son. And we were hoping, we hope we get a fence there. Maybe a brick wall or some kind of chain link fence, you know.
Do you know which area he's talking about?
Right there behind H8, right there. 621 West H8.
Carter Park has a chain link fence on the north side of it. We're actually going to put a second fence up, and then there's walls that are actually right behind the housing that butts right up next to the park property. So there's either walls on the west side or on the south side. North side has a chain link fence, but it's separated a little bit, so we're going to put another fence up right next to the park. That may be something that you're thinking of that would help. And then the entrance actually it'll have a fence with a gate over there too.
Good. Well, also, I want to bring up something. It's been happening there. The traffic is right there on H8, real fast. You know, my son, in last 2 years, they lost every cab they get. It's about 4 or 5 cars they can run over, you know, because of the traffic drives so fast. And let me see what else. The school. The school sign. We really need some school signs over there because the traffic is unbelievable, you know, very fast.
Could we have traffic check the signage and see if we're in compliance and if something needs to be added?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike Scott?
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And for the record, Verizon lost my phone number too. In consideration of the Walmart and the Target that's going to be right across the street from the Quartz Hill High School, if these commercial projects were moved just a mile away from the high school to the intersection of K and 70th Street, no one would object. It would be even closer for the shoppers from Mayflower Retirement Community, saving them more on gas and creating less pollution. The students of the Quartz Hill High School and the established neighborhood surrounding the school would not have to deal with the traffic, the pollution, the crime, and that these commercial projects bring. Delivery trucks taking the Avenue K exit off the freeway and the potential customers would not have to compete with the school traffic and the residential traffic. Avenue K is in sore need of repair for the widening the route from the freeway and would benefit our community. If the proposed commercial projects are moved to this corner, they would still be providing shopping for the local residents. As you know, a housing project of 1,594 homes is planned for the corner of Avenue K and 70th Street West, but as of yet, none are built. If the commercial project is built there first, potential homeowners would know they're buying in a commercial zone, and they could choose their location of their homes based on how close they wish to be near shopping. Lancaster annexed this land years ago, so the city would still be able to collect the property and sales tax dollars that might otherwise go to another city. Or the projects could be moved to Avenue J and 60th Street. This undeveloped land is currently for sale, and being across the street from the prison, it is unlikely to be developed for homes. Lancaster would still be able to collect the property and sales tax dollars, and it would infill the Lancaster property that otherwise might never be developed. The route from the freeway for delivery trucks on Avenue J would not have to be improved, as it is already widened. Mayflower residents would have to drive a few miles further to shop, or they could use the closer established pharmacy, building material and garden stores and grocery stores on 50th Street West in the intersection of 50th and Avenue N and L 40th Street. The projects could be built on any undeveloped land west of the high school. Anywhere but across the street from the high school is acceptable location for these commercial projects. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Cleo Goss?
Okay, throughout the environmental impact reports for the 2 proposed supercenters across the street from Courts Hill High School, a reference to 82 projects is given over and over. And I quote, "Development of the proposed project in conjunction with the development of the 82 related projects has a potential to increase the risk to traffic safety, air, and noise pollution." That's implying that these 2 proposed projects would have less impact than the completion of all 82 related projects. 76 of these 82 supposedly related projects are homes, and only 3 are listed as retail. The increase in crime, traffic, trash, noise, air pollution is entirely different for homes versus a retail project. All 3 of the retail projects are off 60th Street West, on the corner, one on the corner of Avenue K, and the other 2 competing supercenters would not only be across the street from Courts Hill High School, but they'll be across the street from each other. Potential customers would have to come from the local neighborhood, since Avenue L and 60th is 5 miles away from the freeway. Only 19 of the 76 housing projects are within a mile of these 2 proposed rival commercial projects, and they will only increase the number of homes by 1,298. The majority of these 76 housing projects are between Avenue K and J, between 50th and 40th Street West. So if they are ever completed, those potential customers would already be closer to existing shopping centers. Instead of turning Avenue L and 60th into commercial, completely changing the existing residential environment that homeowners thought they were buying into, why not move all 3 projects to the intersection of K and 70th, where a proposed development, you've already heard, and a park are planned. The current housing crisis has halted home building, so I'm sure the property owners would be happy to sell the land instead of continuing to pay taxes until the housing market recovers. Since Avenue L stops at 90th Street West, those residents living in the Iona Valley and Lake Hughes in that direction take 110th Street to Avenue K already. So they would be closer for them, a 70th and K shopping center. Mayflower Garden residents live closer to 70th Street than they do to 60th, so it would be closer to them. West Side shoppers, many of the West Side shoppers in the new homes built between K and J west of 60th Street have a higher housing density than these older homes in the area. When the homes are finally built around the shopping centers, potential homeowners could buy the home based upon how close they wish to live to shopping. Avenue K and 70th is within Lancaster boundaries, so the city would still be able to reap the benefits of sales tax revenue. As for the proposed park, why not swap locations and build it across the street from Courts Hill High School? And by the way, just for your information, a little bit of extra tidbit of fact is searching the internet for any school built across the street from Walmart in a 100-mile radius of Courts Hill High School finds not one school across the street or near a Walmart supercenter. The only one anywhere near that is a Santa Ana school that is a quarter of a mile away from a supercenter, and it's not even on the same street.
Before you go, we had a discussion in the hallway about notifying.
When the final EIR reports come out for these projects, how will you notify us so that we can look at it in a timely manner?
I don't know how we would notify. I'd defer to Sylvia on that. We're still finalizing the dates of both the Planning Commission and the City Council.
Okay,
and
but
we would certainly
doesn't it come out before those meetings?
Yes, they will. That's what I was going to say. We will make sure that we do extra notification in the paper or something, so when the meetings will be there. I don't know, Sylvia, do you know the EIR, how that will be noticed?
I don't believe I don't know.
What we will do, Cleo, what we will do, excuse me, I'm sorry, if you call tomorrow, we'll let you know how that will happen.
All right, because the last EIR for the draft one, I was told that everybody on your list that were opponents to this were mailed a paper saying that it's available now. So we would like to be notified like that.
Well,
That's
what-
fine,
what-
and we will ensure that tomorrow.
Well, wait a minute. That's 700 people.
Oh, no, it's more.
However we
Okay,
notify.
what I suggested to Cleo is that she give us 10, 20 names that we will notify the moment it comes out and get it to them. But what I don't want to do is send out 700 of these things unnecessarily when we can put it on the internet. Now, you did have a point that not everybody's on the internet, but at the same time, what I see is problems developing by committing to doing 700 people. Okay?
We will make sure everyone gets notified in the proper way tomorrow. I do hear what you're saying.
But I do want, there's certain outspoken leaders of this group, they should be notified immediately by telephone. And then it'll be up to you to spread the word.
Right.
Okay.
No problem, as long as we know we get notified.
Yeah,
as
you're
soon
pretty
as
good at it.
possible. So we can read through probably, another 3,000 pages?
Okay. So if we could do that, Mr. Bozigian. Okay. Thank you, Cleo.
Thank you.
And everybody's favorite, Mr. Pelka.
This is the letter I mailed out yesterday to the City Council, the District Attorney, and the Attorney General. This letter is to call to your attention what I believe are substantial violations of the central provisions of the Ralph M. Brown Act, one of which may jeopardize the finality of the actions taken by the Lancaster City Council. The nature of the violations is as follows. During the meeting of May 12, 2009, the Lancaster City Council was taking comments from the citizens. I turned in a card to speak to the council. After 8 or so people spoke, the Vice Mayor, Ron Smith, declared the comment period closed. I spoke up and stated that I wished to speak and had turned in the card to do so. The Vice Mayor stated that I had turned in the card late and could not speak. I turned in the card shortly after the clerk announced that they were taking the cards, and no announcement was made that they were no longer accepting cards for people to speak. In total, there were 3 violations of the Ralph M. Brown Act that took place. 1, I was refused the right to address the council. Not to bore people, the Brown Act 54954.3A, every agenda for regular meetings shall provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body on any item of interest to the public before or during the legislative body's consideration of the item. Number 2, I was refused the right to critique policies of the council. Brown Act number 54954.3C, the legislative body of a local agency shall not prohibit public criticism of policies, procedures, programs, or services of the agency or the acts or omissions of the legislative body. Number 3, anyone who addresses the council is required to submit a card and provide information about themselves before addressing the council. 54953.3, a member of the public shall not be required as condition to attendance of a meeting or legislative body or of a local agency to register his or her name, to provide other information, to complete a questionnaire, or otherwise to fulfill any condition persistent to his or her attendance. I won't bother with the second paragraph here. Past actions and violations by the mayor and vice mayor of the city of Lancaster have left me no choice but to request all meetings that have been conducted since the installation of the current council be analyzed for further violations not only of the Brown Act but of citizens' civil rights. Respectfully yours, Scott Belka. And by the way, Mr. Paris, you reading a statement earlier stating that the cards have to be turned in doesn't change the law.
Thank you, Mr. Pelka. David Paul.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council.
Good evening.
I echo some of the sentiments before. You guys are doing such a great job that it makes it hard to get up here and chew on you. I actually didn't have that intent, but I did have some things to discuss. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I left here feeling, a little with mixed emotions because there are so many things that go on in this room that are great. I wish more people could see them, but By the same token, and maybe perhaps I shouldn't have watched Mel Gibson's Apocalypto last night, but
good movie, I thought.
Yeah, it's excellent. But what we're doing here seems almost magical and doesn't conform with the reality in the outside world. And I'm not a pessimist. I don't think that the world is going to end. I just think that there's a lot more rough times before the good ones come back. So I applaud what you're doing. You have to do that. You can't say the ship is sinking. It's not, but it's going to come down to us. And I've talked about that before, and I'm glad to see us rallying as a community. So in closing tonight, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say just to you, you look smashing up here tonight in your suit. Is that a new suit, or have you lost like 12 pounds? Because you're really looking good.
I lost 8.
Okay.
I'm really proud of myself. I lost 8 pounds.
I can tell. You're looking good. Thanks. Okay, well, I hope to see you all tomorrow at the Criminal Justice Commission, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Okay. We have another closed session.
Yes, sir, we do.
First, we have a report from Vice Mayor Smith and Councilmember Mann. Councilmember Mann, do you want to start?
Yeah, just let the record reflect to receive the report. Meeting was held for NCTC, the North County Transportation Coalition. It had been over a year since it met. We handled 3 or 4 items, as you can see on the submission. There was no change in the lineup in regards to the officers for the upcoming year. We received an update with the California Regional Rail Authority, Metrolink, and they proceeded to let us know that they were going to raise their fare by 3%. And then we got an update from Lori Hunter from the San Bernardino County Supervisor's Office in regards to the High Desert Corridor. That's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Good. I didn't see a report in my binder for the one. Did all the other council members get it? I just want to make sure they got it. Yeah, the AVTA? Okay. No, that's okay. Thanks. Just if you have any questions, it's just the synopsis of what happened at the AVTA. There was one report that was not given out, but I just thought I would mention it, and that is that I'm the chairman of the TDA Article 8 hearing committee, which is by state law put together every year for the MTA, and what it does is decides if there's any unmet needs. I had talked about that before. Well, we actually made a recommendation to the MTA that we have no unmet transportation needs that cannot be paid for with Prop A or Prop C money, and thereby the additional monies that we have for TDA Article 8 money can go towards road repairs and building the infrastructure like that. So that's going to be the recommendation to the MTA, and I don't think they usually vote differently. Mr. Bozigan would know. He used to work down there. So we should be able to secure those funds that's already in our budget. So any question? That's it.
Got any juice down there, Mark?
Dissipating rapidly.
That's how juice works. Any council comments?
I have just one. I noticed on tomorrow's Criminal Justice Commission agenda on New Business 4 is a recommendation to the City Council to extend the mayoral term from 2 years to 4 years. I believe that's certainly a worthwhile discussion to have, and I'm sure would be quite lively if we were to have it. I'm not
say nothing of what Mr. Pelka would say.
I'm just, since they haven't spoken on it yet, I'm just going to treat this a little lightly. I'm not sure what that has to do with their charter and what the responsibility we've given them. I'm not sure how that ties into the reduction of Part 1 crime. So I'm looking forward to see how that plays out tomorrow. And they have something I haven't thought of.
Anyone else? Now, aren't you proud of me? I didn't respond. I didn't.
Mayor Paris, I did have a couple of things. It was great to see those kids here tonight.
Yes.
And I really appreciate us taking the time to do that with the presentations and all. One of the things I did want to mention was that it was my honor to go to the ALADS annual banquet. And just some of the things that happened there, I'd like to mention, if I may. One of the things that they did is they took time to recognize Sharon Runner for her work and the in the community and the support of the ALADs over the years. And that was great. There were many awards given. One that really stuck out was the Los Angeles County District Attorney Bureau of Investigation Auto Insurance Fraud Task Force took a huge bite out of the Russian organized crime, and without going into the details, that was pretty amazing. One of the other things that was just over and over again, every one of these awards, the things that these deputies have done, have gone above and beyond the call of duty for the citizens. And it was just, like I said, I was so proud to be there, and it was such an honor to be there. These people that put their lives on the line daily for us. There was another award that was given out for exemplary performance into the LA Sheriff's Homicide Bureau and the Long Beach Police Department, because there was a deputy, Maria Cecilia Rosa, that was tragically and needlessly shot and killed in February 2005 while she was on her way to work. And she was confronted by 2 street gang members in Long Beach, and while she was attempting to defend herself, she was shot twice in the back. This is someone that was going to work to protect you and I. This, long story short, the detectives on the case initiated what turned out to be the largest undercover operation in the history of the Sheriff's Department, as well as the California Department of Corrections, in bringing these 2 cop killers to justice. And that was just a little part of what happened. I was pleased to be there. Vice Mayor Ron Smith was there, and Shelley Henson, our community safety supervisor, was there. And I appreciate your allowing us to go, Mayor Paris. And it was, like I said, it was a great honor to be there. And I appreciate what all those deputies do for us. Another comment I'd like to make is today we had a press conference, and it was for the WETIP, which I'm very excited about. And I believe, like I've said before, it's just going to be another tool in the toolbox that's going to help for citizens who fear retribution and turning in maybe even a family member or someone, that I think it's going to be useful, and I'm excited about it. Then I just want to say that once again, I appreciate everything that Barbara Boswell has done. I know she's worked hand in hand with AVTA and helped them looking over some things with their budget and everything and helping them out, and that's greatly appreciated too. But all the staff has just done an outstanding job, and I appreciate it all again.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, anyone else? Then we will now recess to a closed session for the purpose of anticipated litigation. Okay, we'll now reconvene, and the city attorney will fill us in.
Mr. Mayor, the council met in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9B to discuss one potential litigation matter, gave direction to staff concerning that matter.
Well, can't we announce what we're doing?
Yes, you may.
Well, go ahead, tell them. We're going to sue the county.
Okay. The direction to staff was to join a lawsuit with the other contract cities to sue the county for an unauthorized withdrawal from the litigation liability fund of $5.6 million. to pay
So that's what they call it. We call it stealing.
Okay.
I mean, they stole the money. We want it back, right?
We would like the money back. They used the money to pay for to settle lawsuits involving criminal acts of L.A. County Sheriff's deputies. One deputy, actually two. That was two. One or two deputies.
Okay. Okay, good.
You know, the mayor's been waiting 14 months to say those words. We're going to sue the county.
Well, that's not really true. What he's been waiting 14 months to do is to strike back. You know, I mean, it seems as if the state has now set the tone that, you know, everybody's robbing each other to take care of budget deficits they created. And we're not sitting idly by and letting them do that to us anymore. And I'm proud of that, actually. I think that part of our job as a council is to protect the city, and regardless of how big the bully is. And in this case, there are certain members of the county that are being bullies, and we're joining the other cities to do something about it. Now I'm going to be really proud when we sue the state to get our money back. But we'll see how that goes.
We're actually part of an agency that is, aren't we? Isn't the redevelopment agency organization suing the state right now for $3.5 million?
California Redevelopment Association filed a lawsuit this spring against the state on the pass-throughs, the ERAF pass-throughs, and was successful at the trial court level so far. The court declared that statute was unconstitutional, that they couldn't allocate money in that manner. So that is now on appeal.
Good. We'll see what happens. Okay. We're going to adjourn this meeting in memory of United States Air Force pilot Captain Mark P. Graziano. I wanted to make sure I pronounced it correctly, who died while on a training mission in May while flying a T-38 Talon. The next meeting will take place on June 23rd, 2009 at 6 p.m. And Carol, I'm finally done and I'm coming home.